Good evening. Welcome to this meeting of the Board of Education. This meeting is being televised live on AACPS TV and streamed on AACPS YouTube channel. General information and protocols for the meeting are posted on the sign by the doorway as you enter the room, so please make sure you read those if you have not already. Please pause for the invocation. O God, we pray to administer that which is just in all educational policies, being ever mindful of your guidance. Stir us to action with love, wisdom, and understanding. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will now move to item 2.03, approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
Move
Sure.
to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Do I have consensus? Thank you. Item 2.04, establish agenda order.
Move to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
Thank you. Do I have consensus? Thank you. Item 2.05, recognitions. I believe we have no recognitions tonight. That takes us to section 3, public comments. We have no public comments tonight. So that brings us to item 4.01, the Krask report. Good evening, Ms. Fidel.
Good evening, President Tobin, Vice President Silkworth, members of the board, and Dr. Bedell. My name is Michelle Fidel. I am a freshman at Chesapeake High School. My pronouns are she, her, and I am very grateful to serve as the Krask Secretary of Education. Since my last report, Krask hosted the MASC Fall Leadership Conference. A special thank you to Principal Nash, Ms. Leah Noriega, countless teachers, and staff from Lindale Middle School for their hospitality. Krask was thrilled to have Dr. Bedell and Ms. Jackson join us for the event. It was a wonderful day of advocacy, networking, and fun with student leaders from across the state. Last week, over 175 students attended Krask Virtual Legislative General Assembly via Google Meet. Students selected from workshop with titles such as How to Become a Middle School Leader, Maximizing Your Audience Engagement, Kitty Committee, and Advocacy Through Art. In addition, revisions from the Krask platforms, bylaws, and constitutions were presented. Overall, the GA was an absolute success and the technology worked perfectly. Ballots will be sent to the schools later this week. The December episodes of AACPS TV Teen Talk premiered last Wednesday. Show host Cameron Chair welcomed 3 AACPS service superstars in the studio and spoke to members of the Student Service Leadership Team. Guests, including Miss Lori Fowler, manager of the Service Learning and Mentorship, shared information about how students can serve their community. Check it out on the AACPS YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram at AACPS Teen Talk. The Anne Arundel County students selected for the Maryland General Assembly Page program were notified last week. Congratulations to the 10 student page selected, 7 from AACPS schools and 3 from private schools within the county. Congratulations. Upcoming meetings, dates can be found on our website and in Brightspace. The December CRAS newsletter is now available on our website, Brightspace, and on our Instagram at CRAS Online. Now, this is the last CRAS report of the year 2022, and wow, what a year. Since mid-August, CRAS has held a total of 6 exec team meetings, 4 town hall meetings, and 1 amazing general assembly. Through the hard work of our various departments in CRAS, we have worked hard to expand SMOB voting, submitted testimonies, hosted service projects of the month, created countless posts on social media, and much more. We, the CRAS crew, consisting of 28 exec team members and our fabulous advisor, Ms. Pellegrin, are proud of how amazing 2022 has been and can't wait to see what next year has in store for us. Happy holidays to all, and wishing in advance a happy New Year's. Thank you, and see you in 2023 for my next CRAS update. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fidel. It is always a joy to see you, Ms. Fidel, and I hope you have a wonderful holiday break as well, and a very happy New Year. I have to offer my apologies. I forgot to do something earlier that is something we try to do every year. This is the last Board of Education meeting of 2022. And over the course of this year, our school system has lost a number of students and staff. And so I would like to ask you to join me now in a moment of silence in their memory. Thank you. Their memories will always be with us, and as a prayer that's often said in the Jewish tradition says, may their memories be a blessing. So thank you. So now, yeah, sure.
All right. Sorry, I put on my light.
Yeah.
I'm
sorry.
I just wanted to tell you that you're the absolute best. And my favorite, sorry, Miss Howard, but my favorite report, and just keep being you, because you're so wonderful. So thank you for the joy you bring to our meetings.
Mr. Silkworth?
I'm not going to come back and say Miss Howard is my best. You both are absolutely awesome. It is such a pleasure to listen to your reports. They are marvelous. Both of you, by the way, both of you. So happy holidays.
Thank you. So that brings us to item 4.02, the CAC report. Good evening, Ms. Howard. And you and Ms. Fidel, you got the memo? You dressed alike? Was that the?
And I do have to concur. She is every single meeting really hard to follow. Really hard. I'm by the end, I'm not going to even try.
And I have to follow both of you. So. Yeah.
Well, good evening, President Tobin, Vice President Silkworth, fellow board members, and Dr. Vidal. And congratulations, Madam President and Mr. Vice President, for your appointments to another term serving in leadership of this board. For the record, my name is Tanisha Howard, the chair of the Citizen Advisory Committee, otherwise known as the CAC. On behalf of the CAC body, I am pleased to have this opportunity to update the board on our recent meeting held on Monday, December 12th. But before that, I wanted to say, as a reminder to the public, the CAC conducts our meetings virtually on the second Monday of every month, except for the month of April from 6:45 to 8:45. Our meeting schedule is currently posted on our AACPS CAC webpage underneath the board tab. We have 5 remaining meetings for this coming school year. Actually, we just had one of the 5 this past week. But we encourage all to come to our upcoming meetings. Anyone interested, please just request to our CAC secretary with your name, email address, and we will make sure to get you into our meeting. Next, for our perspectives and impact. Again, this launched in 2021 to honor the late Honorable Candace C.W. Antwine, featured a presentation from Ms. Tatey Robinson, the Community Engagement Coordinator in the Office of Communications and Community Engagement with the Maryland State Department of Education, who discussed the release of Phase 1 of the strategic plan and the outline of the strategic planning survey related to the blueprint for Maryland's future. There were some exciting updates mentioned for teacher compensation next year across the state. We will have a debrief on the blueprint at one of our upcoming first quarter meetings, and we welcome the connection to a key resource in education, and certainly will amplify efforts through our channels for collective community engagement, especially where it aligns to our body of work to improve our school system and communities, foster awareness, and encourage participation. Now on to the heart of the CAC, our subcommittees. Our breakout sessions included Approaching Education, International Perspective, Hate and Bias, Ready to Read, Early Literacy, and Wellness Lens. Speaking of our subcommittees, we have briefly outlined what's next in current agenda for our subcommittees, which are extremely busy working on their respective study areas. Of note, on December 15th, the Hate and Bias is having their subcommittee meeting at 6:30 p.m. To discuss the scope definitions and aligning them to key resources. As always, we will continually report routine updates on progress made over the coming months. In closing, we would like to thank those of the community who continue to support us, joining the conversation, sharing your journeys, and collaborating on a chance to change and impact education within AACPS. In celebration of National Mentoring Month, we will have a presentation next month on internships and look forward to all those who would like to attend and participate in the breakout sessions. Now, while we are approaching our midway mark, we continue to look forward, engage, and dedicate time to the remaining work ahead. As always, we welcome and appreciate your feedback and look forward to the rest of this year with purpose, direction, and results to meet the challenges at hand and into the future. Thank you, and may you all have a safe and wonderful holiday break, and see you in the new year.
Thank you, Ms. Howard, and thank you again for all your work. We appreciate it. All right, so that brings us to item 4.03, President's Update. I just have a couple of things. I was privileged, along with Ms. Schalheim, to attend the All-County Orchestra on Saturday, which was the middle school and high school performances, which were, I have to tell you, extraordinary. The guest conductors this year were just amazing. And not only were they clearly incredibly talented and skilled musicians themselves, but their ability to work with our students was phenomenal. And our students, as always, stepped up and produced remarkable performances. And I would say that the guest conductor, particularly for the high school, in his remarks, made the comment that he's fortunate to do these kinds of guest conducting jobs around the country by virtue of the status that he enjoys as a well-known composer and conductor. And he said that the program that Anne Arundel County has built is just remarkable, and it is a testament to all the music teachers in our system, the work that they do. So I just want to send my congratulations and say that you missed an amazing thing. I mean, you can pay a lot to go to Baltimore or DC and hear symphonies, or you could go to our all-county orchestra performance. And It was amazing. I was also privileged to attend the Annapolis Cluster Band concert last night at Annapolis High, which included Bates Middle School, Annapolis Middle School, and the Annapolis High School bands. And it was wonderful. So again, thank you to the music teachers, the band teachers, the whole music program. We are producing some wonderful young musicians, and that just makes the world better for all of us. So thank you. And finally, we have some congratulations in order for our student member who has recently received the news that he has been selected to be a part of the United States Senate Youth Program. And he is one of 2 delegates from Maryland, correct? So a big round of applause for Mr. McGrath. And Mr. McGrath, would you like to say a couple of words about this and about the program? And
Sure. So the United States Senate Youth Program is sanctioned by the United States Senate. It's run by the Hearst Foundation, and 2 young people from every state selected by the state superintendent attends in March. It's a week-long program. You hear leadership symposiums with the president, members of the Senate, members of the cabinet, sometimes the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And it really just makes me reflect on how grateful I am to serve on this board, to have great mentors on this board like Dr. Bedell, Dr. Tobin, and Mr. Silkworth, who really pushed me to be the best public servant I can be for my fellow students, and to have been able to have been selected for this great award. And I'm just so grateful to be able to have this experience, to be able to serve my peers on this board, and be able to work with such a great, passionate Board of Education.
thank you, and congratulations. It couldn't go to a better candidate. So we look forward to hearing some of what you get from that. So thank you and enjoy. All right, that's the end of the president's report, which brings us to item 4.04, the budget committee report. Ms. Schalheim.
Sure. Before I begin, I'm just going to take a moment of personal privilege. Our students are incredible. I mean, that is an incredible honor. Our students are so articulate and fabulous. And at the All County Orchestra the other day, you could close your eyes and think that they were all adults because that's how they played. I mean, it was just phenomenal. So
Yeah.
just had to put that out there. I know we all know this already, but bears repeating. So anyway, the budget committee did meet this past Monday, and pretty much the entire meeting was focused around our upcoming budget amendment season. You know, tonight kicks off that in earnest with our presentation that we're all excited to hear in a few minutes. And so just getting our arms around what does that look like in terms of board amendments and in terms of our process. And so it was a good meeting. We laid it out pretty clearly. And so, you know, the whole point is to be transparent for the public, kind of like what we did last year. And we're going to post those amendments. Should we get any from members, public, the Friday before the February nighttime meeting when we make amendments and or read them into the record and discuss them and vote them up or down. And so, you know, it was just to lay out that timeline, basically. And then lastly, I just want to say Hanukkah Sameach, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Festivus for the rest of us, or if you don't celebrate anything at all, that's great too. And yeah, hopefully we'll come back after the break rested and ready to go. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ms. Schalheim, and thank you for your continued work on the budget committee. This process has come leaps and bounds over the last couple of years under your leadership, so thank you. So that brings us to section 5. Item 5.01, the superintendent's update. Dr. Bedell.
All right, thank you, Madam President. And I too concur that our students are phenomenal in this school district. Sometimes I go home and I constantly think to myself, how did I get so lucky to have been assigned to serve as superintendent of this school district? And when I say we have everything in terms of the complements of programs, the quality of the programs, attending that football game for Arundel High School and watching the marching band perform, phenomenal. I hear Broadneck is something to see, and I haven't been out there yet to see them perform, but we just have a lot of talent in this school district, and you've heard it with our student board member, our president of CRASC, who maybe one day we'll see you behind here. Who knows?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there is a lot of talent, and I do agree with that. On the superintendent's report, we're really focusing on area number 5 right now, which is developing and creating a level of trust and confidence from the community at large. And a lot of that is due to the fact that we are going out and soliciting input during these listening and learning tours. And so we have already completed 5 of our listening and learning tours. We have Broadneck that will take place tomorrow night, and then North County when we get back from the weekend. So it is an opportunity for people to weigh in and to give us their thoughts as we begin to think about what this next strategic plan will look like. And the only thing I would encourage people to do, it's hard on me as a superintendent to accept, I don't know, nobody's communicating with us, when as a parent in this school district, I get a text message that tells me when these different events are taking place. So if people aren't signed up to Connect Ed, right, outside of going to the website and hopefully hearing it from your schools, you get the communications on each of these listening and learning tours. And so we want to do everything in our power to make sure that we are using every modality to communicate with people, because we do want to hear your voice. These sessions have been very powerful. And if you have not been to one, I would encourage you to come and attend one, because they have been eye-opening, and there are things that we're solving some of these issues right on the spot as a result of going out and hearing and listening from the community. So I just want to reiterate that. I wanted to give an update on transportation. We continue to make progress. We are down to 54 bus driver vacancies as of today. It's been a constant around, that 57 to 60 range of drivers currently in training. Ongoing discussions on route identification for potential changes at semester break are taking place. And we started our alternative vehicle program on December 5th. We have restored service for 2,400 students in the last 2 weeks. Finally, this past weekend, I had an opportunity to spend some time with the Davidsonville Elementary family out at South County High School. They had a fundraiser where the Harlem Wizards came in, and it was just a wonderful event. The gym was packed. My daughter and I got to experience that and laughed a lot, but also had opportunities to meet a number of people in that community. And then on Saturday morning, I visited every single public housing unit in Annapolis with 3 to 4 different community members. And this is something that I plan to continue to do as I go around the county, just to get to know the community, just to get to know the community better. And this is my commitment to just get out and do everything that I can to learn as much as possible so that I could make the best decisions along with our team in terms of the recommendations we bring to this board on how to best advance this school district. So, Madam Chair, that concludes the superintendent's remark, and I do want to wish everybody a happy and wishful holiday season that's upcoming.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bedell. Ms. Schulheim, your light?
Yeah, I just had a quick question, something that keeps coming up in conversations I'm having with constituents regarding the route identification for potential changes.
Mhm.
Do we envision that notification happening before winter break or just after winter break?
It'll be after, because it will
Okay.
be closer to when the second semester starts. So I would assume we'll probably get notifications out a couple of weeks prior to the second semester starting.
Okay, so at least a couple weeks.
Oh, we
so
will give
they can
advance
plan.
notice.
Okay, fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bedell. All right, we're going to move to 5.02, Superintendent's Recommended Fiscal Year 2024 Operating and Capital Budgets, a small thing. Now, before Dr. Bedell begins, tonight, Dr. Bedell will present his recommended FY Fiscal Year 2024 Operating and Capital Budget. The board will not utilize tonight's meeting to ask follow-up questions, as we will hear additional information during the budget workshop scheduled for Tuesday, January 17th, and at our two public hearings on January 24th and January 26th. The board will then formulate questions and amendments. As always, anyone may email the board office to submit written testimony related to any topic at boardoffice@aacps.org. So just a reiteration of some of the process. All right, with that, it's all yours, Dr. Bedell.
All right. President Tobin, Vice President Silkworth, members of the board, elected officials, parents, community members, and most of all, students. I stood at this podium in June and was honored to be appointed by this Board of Education as Superintendent of Anne Arundel County Public Schools. Since that day, I have spent my time immersing myself in every possible way to learn as much as I can about the programs and the people that make up this school system. I have spent as little time in my office as possible, wanting instead to be out at our schools and other buildings, at meetings and events with community members and elected officials alike, and interacting with our students and employees. Here's what I've learned. This is a good school system, a really good school system. I stand here tonight on the rock-solid foundation left by those who came before me, and I say to you that this school system, our school system, can be great. That's what I want, and I know that's what you want for every single student we serve today and will serve in the future. We have a lot of work to do to get there, but I will say again what I said in June. Education is the pathway to economic prosperity. If we do education right, it does not matter how you show up and where you come from. You can overcome. We have a responsibility as a school system and, just as importantly, as a community, to make sure that every single one of our kids grow socially, emotionally, and academically. That's why these discussions continue to be important. They help to erase preconceived notions or perceived biases and replace them with the building blocks of relationships, which ultimately will elevate all of our students. They give everyone a voice at the table. I want to hear from all because I am and will be the superintendent for all. Every voice has a value. So I've met with the Coalition for LGBTQ plus students, with Moms for Liberty, with the Caucus of African American Leaders, with members of the NAACP. I've sat with individual elected officials and a group that I'm told our school system hasn't met with very often, the mayor of Annapolis and the Annapolis City Council. I've spoken with an audience from Leadership Anne Arundel, with the CEO of the Housing Authority of the City of Annapolis, with board members, principals, and other employee groups, with leaders in our county police and health departments, members of the business community, and with the garrison commander and his team at Fort Meade. And I've had conversations with our teen advisory, students taking part in a school leadership summit, students in the Maryland Association of Student Councils, and everyday citizens whose lives are impacted by the work we do. All were robust conversations about what each person or group felt was important. I left every single one of those meetings feeling excited about the candor expressed and knowing there is common ground if we are willing to work to find it. We are all seeking the same thing, the best possible educational experience for every single student in our school system. That ultimately makes Anne Arundel County better for everyone. As part of my 100-day entry plan, we're now in the midst of 16 sessions of our listening and learning tour, an opportunity for residents across our county, whether they have students in our school system or not, to offer their thoughts about what we're doing well, where we need to improve, and what new initiatives they'd like to see in our school system. The opinions are and will continue to be diverse because our county is diverse. We will have many more conversations with more groups as we move forward. Every opinion matters because every student matters. We cannot truly know where we are without fully embracing the amazing diversity of our communities, every ounce of it. And getting where we want to go is impossible without knowing exactly where we are and where we are coming from. The budget I will recommend to you tonight reflects decisions made as a result of the hundreds of conversations to date and is aligned with two sets of ideas. The first ideal is this Board of Education's set of established budgetary priorities around transportation, competitive compensation, special education, early childhood literacy, and mental health staffing. The second is a set of 4 pillars upon which our next strategic plan must rest: equity, innovation, the social, emotional, and academic growth of all students, and last but not least, adherence to the blueprint for Maryland's future. If we're going to take the next steps to being great, we must address those areas. I have to tell you that the most surprising thing I've learned since getting here is the way our employees are, or should I say are not, compensated compared to surrounding jurisdictions. We are one of the wealthiest counties in the state, ranked as one of the wealthiest in the nation. But our minimum teacher salary ranks 20th out of 24 jurisdictions in Maryland. Our average teacher salary is 15th out of 24 jurisdictions and about $7,000 below the state average. To their credit, County Executive Pittman, County Council, and this school board have made significant strides over the last 4 years in putting teachers back on their proper salary step. But we can't compete for teachers against Baltimore County, Howard County, and Montgomery County when we pay thousands of dollars less. The work is just as hard and the cost of living is just as high. What incentive do those statistics give young teachers and career changers to join our team and help us become great? What incentive does it give veteran teachers to stay here? And with more than 500,000 teachers across the nation leaving the profession over the last 2 years, what do we need to do in order to scale that recruitment and retention mountain? We need competitive pay for our teachers. We also need competitive pay for bus drivers, custodians, maintenance employees, secretaries, food service workers, and all of the employees who work in this school system. We have employees trying to make ends meet while earning less than $13 an hour. I just have to call it like I see it. That's not a livable wage, and quite frankly, it's embarrassing. We shouldn't have the vacancies we have in many areas, and we shouldn't be losing people to retail jobs outside of education because it's more financially feasible for their families. We have good people making choices they would otherwise not be making because we're forcing them to do so. We need to show our people they are valued, and while it starts with compensation, that's not the only avenue. We can do things like allowing all employees to telework on a non-student day, which we did the day before the start of Thanksgiving break. Or, as we announced earlier this month, we can do it by taking some of the salary savings from our vacancies and returning it to our employees, who have all increased their efforts to fill the staffing gaps. Our families and communities can do it simply by being kind and thankful, by not screaming at secretaries, bus drivers, teachers, or anyone else who is simply doing their best in trying circumstances. We can do it with tones of appreciation, collaboration, and gratitude, not anger, disrespect, and disgust. Addressing the issue of compensation gaps will make it easier to close opportunity gaps for our students. Those begin with our youngest learners before they ever arrive at our schools. Our fall 2021 kindergarten readiness assessment data shows that nearly 50% of our white students are adequately prepared for kindergarten, while just over 30% of our African American students and 17% of our Hispanic students are. We must find ways to increase community partnerships and engagement to address issues that are changing in a county that is becoming more and more diverse by the day. The number of Hispanic students in our system, for example, has doubled over the last 10 years. Our percentage of students receiving free and reduced price meals rose 7% over the last year and is higher than 40% for the first time ever. We must evolve to a place where, as a community, we adequately address those issues. We must champion early education, and we must utilize to the greatest extent possible the expansion of pre-K for both 3 and 4-year-olds to provide more enrichment for our youngest learners. We converted the last of our half-day 4-year-old programs to full day this year and added 8 3-year-old pre-K classrooms, but there is far more to do. The work we do in early childhood education sets the stage for student success later on, because the ultimate goal is that it ensures more students arrive in kindergarten on grade level and ready to learn. It helps close and eventually eliminate gaps in many areas, such as reading and math performance, where the percentages of our African American and Hispanic students meeting or exceeding standards still trails white students by considerable margins. The diversity of our student population's needs, as well as the available support structures in our communities, means that there is no single one approach to get the results we want. Equity has long been a pillar of this school system's efforts, and the work has been applaudable. We need to increase those efforts and differentiate approaches where appropriate so that every student can succeed. As I have told everyone I've met with, if we do equity correctly, everybody wins. Equity is not about everybody getting a pair of shoes. It's about everybody getting the right size shoes, and about people getting to know students so we can help them based on their individual needs. So let me share a personal story with you that I'm not proud of, but which illustrates the need to really get to know our students. I was an assistant principal in the Houston Independent School District back in 2006. And I had this student, an 11th grader, who would sag slightly. And as an assistant principal, I had this expectation that I don't want anybody sagging on my floor. Like, you understand? I would talk to this young man, say, man, pull up your pants, pull up your pants. Kid kept going to class. So one day I had an incident where somebody cut me off on my way to work, and it just didn't go over well. And I was upset by the time I entered into the school. And guess who I saw? I saw that kid. And at this point, either you gonna pull up your pants or I'm gonna show you the kind of power that I have over you. So he kept walking. I said, hey, my man, go on ahead and come with me to the office. I'm about to suspend you. Right? He puts his hand on my shoulder as I'm going to my desk to process the paperwork. And I turn around and I look at this kid, and he had a tear coming down his face. And he said, Mr. Bedell, you mean to tell me you're going to suspend me? You don't even know me. I come to school every day. I mind my business. I'm sagging slightly, and you riding me over that. Maybe if you took time to get to know me, you would know that I'm homeless. I have nowhere to sleep. I'm living from home to home, but I come to school every day, and you getting ready to put me back out on the streets that I'm trying to escape. It floored me. So when we talk about equity, this is why the work that we're trying to do is critical, because this happens far too often. And I'm a black man. It's not nothing to do with black and white and Hispanic. It floored me, and I've never forgotten that. I needed to help that young man find the right size shoes, but I needed to get to know him first. And here's the worst part. I used to sag back in the 90s when I was younger. As I moved up and earned more money, I had lost the perspective of where I had been. This is why the equity work we are doing benefits all of us. We all show up with implicit bias, and we have to check it at the door, or kids will continue to be harmed in a disproportionate manner, as we can see in our data. Equity is not about fixing one inequity by creating another inequity. I would never do that. Equity is about equity is also not only about low performing marginalized children. Equity is about lifting those at the bottom while still pushing those at the top who are not being pushed. It's about raising the performance for all, not lowering the ceiling just to be able to say you're closing a gap. It's about data like graduation, where our rate for every single demographic student has increased over the last 10 years. During that time, the rate of increase for both African American and Hispanic students, as well as those students receiving special education services and free and reduced price meals, has been greater than that of white students, but every group has gone up. That's the fruit of the work of equity. That work also means ensuring that all of our students are truly prepared for and feel encouraged and welcome to take advantage of the rigorous curriculum offered in our magnet programs and our advanced placement classes. When it comes to advanced opportunities for our students, educators everywhere have to rid themselves of the club mentality, where certain students are invited in and others aren't. I wasn't in that club as a student. No one invited me to take a single advanced placement course. The truth is, I'm not supposed to be here. I dropped out of school in the 2nd grade. I was homeless for a period of time, a ward of the state of New York for 7 years of my life. But here I stand because there were people who believed in me. They got me back on track, supported me like I needed to be supported, and pushed me. And if I can stand here tonight as the superintendent of one of the 40 largest school systems in the country, so can any student in our school system. Every student deserves to explore every opportunity they can, and I fully support the Blueprints initiative to eradicate the gatekeeper mindset and open access, cost-free in most cases, to advanced placement, as well as community college dual enrollment coursework for students across every school system in Maryland to at least try. That's equity. It's about access rather than a bottom line score. It closes the door to no one, but opens additional pathways to so many more. Our work must also not move away from the rigidity in which too many school systems find themselves. We must not just think outside the box, we must work outside of it in an innovative and differentiated way. We must stop talking about why we can't do things and ask more about how we can do them. We must become a school system with a can-do mentality. For example, why must every school operate on the same schedule every day? Why can't some schools be open longer hours on some days or every day to allow for students to access coursework at times that better work in schedules to allow for things like internships, outside work, and assistance for their families? Why must all of our students attend classes 5 days a week? Why can't we have flexibility to at least entertain 4 school weeks in places where it would be beneficial? Not the whole system. The answer to that is that the state mandates 180 school days and a required number of seat hours. So as this board is aware, one of our legislative priorities is to pass legislation that allows for either days or hours in order to give us the flexibility to at least have those conversations. Flexibility is the key to innovation, which is what the blueprint is all about. Why does the performance of our African American students, particularly males, lag behind that of white students? What can we do differently to address those needs? And why, with doubling the number of our English language learners over the last 10 years, don't we have a single dual language school in our county? The research is clear that in a dual language school, everyone wins. So we'll start that effort next year, next fall, when we launch with existing budgetary resources, a dual language program at Tyler Heights Elementary School. With all of that in mind, we have gone about the task of developing the fiscal year 2024 operating budget recommendation, that I present to you tonight. I asked our team to advocate strongly for what they need, to take into account the upcoming sunsets in federal and state funding grants, and to be mindful of the need to focus on fiscal prudence and responsibility. I am grateful for the hard work our department heads did in scrutinizing every line of their budgets, and for our leadership and budget teams, which examined each of those requests in granular detail. We made very difficult decisions to arrive at this recommendation, trimming more than $80 million from departmental program enhancement requests, not because they weren't needed. As I've always stated, it costs money to be great, but because I fully realize we are a large part of an even larger picture when it comes to funding from our county. My operating budget recommendation to this board totals $1.68 billion. That represents an increase of $150 million from our current appropriation. But I want to make the point that both the recommended increase and the percentage it represents are lower than a year ago. More than half of the increase, $80.8 million, is allocated to sorely needed additional compensation for employees, contracted bus drivers, and substitute teachers. Quite frankly, as a county, we must all commit to gain ground on other school systems if we want to retain the immense talent we have, not to mention attracting new talent. The funding in my recommendation is sufficient, subject to negotiations with applicable bargaining units for a step increase or a step equivalent for all eligible employees and a 6% cost of living increase for all employees. It also includes a $2,000 bonus for special education teachers, funding to cover 30 additional minutes of work per day for eligible Unit 4 employees, fulfillment of costs for blueprint mandated stipends for national board certified teachers, the third straight year of a $5 per day increase for substitute teachers, and the second consecutive year of a 10% COLA for our contracted bus drivers. Importantly, it would bring the wage of every employee in our school system up to at least $15 an hour. That's just the first step. Just as it is no secret that we need to pay our team members more, we also need more people, and we need them in the right places. Of the additional positions I am requesting in this budget, 88% will be in front of students every single day. Among those recommendations are 148.8 positions in special education to deliver services to students with special needs, including the first phase of converting early childhood intervention programs to full-day pre-K. 21 English language development teachers and assistants, 12 assistant principals, and 10 teaching assistants and permanent substitutes. There also is funding for 62 positions to move the virtual academy from grant funding to our general operating budget, as federal ESSER funds provided during the COVID-19 pandemic continue to expire. Our virtual academy is the first and the only one in the state to be a standalone school. It has more than 500 students enrolled with a capacity of about 660. This recommendation also includes 22 positions to staff vans and SUVs we are purchasing to transport students to non-public schools, freeing up more CDL licensed drivers to continue to chip away at the bus route outage issue. 15 positions for additional 3-year-old pre-K programs, and 9.5 positions to expand the Triple E program to the schools in the Old Mill cluster. To specifically address the social and emotional needs of our students, I've allocated $2.6 million for 18 positions that include 4 school psychologists, 3 social workers, 3 counselors, 2 pupil personnel workers, and funding to create a new alternative education program in the Meade cluster and also expand one at the elementary level. The ongoing significant increase in the number of English language learners means we must continue to add resources to meet
the, to meet the needs not just of students, but their families. In addition to the 21 classroom positions I've already mentioned, this recommendation includes funding for 3 additional bilingual facilitators, 1 additional bilingual assistant for our International Student and Family Welcome Center, and a bilingual receptionist for our transportation department to assist families with bus issues. We are charged with a unique task this year in beginning to request funding to open 3 new schools, 1 in the coming year and 2 more in 2024-2025 school year. My recommendation includes $6.3 million to open the Chesapeake Science Point Charter School elementary program next year, and more than $2.7 million in the first phase of funding for West County Elementary School and Old Mill High School West, so we can begin preparations to launch those schools. I said that part of the difficult decisions in this process came from a mindset of fiscal prudence. You will not see in this recommendation any request for additional classroom teachers to address enrollment increases, much less reduce class sizes. Do we need them? Absolutely. Our estimates put that number at just short of 190, given our enrollment increase of about 1,300 students this year. However, I believe that we must first concentrate on eliminating the nearly 200 classroom teacher vacancies we currently have by addressing compensation increases and other issues, and then approach the county about providing more teaching positions. We must be responsible team players. We must also be responsible when it comes to our intent to fully fund blueprint mandates. This recommendation contains $10.3 million for those items, including the dual enrollment initiative with Anne Arundel County Community College that I spoke of earlier, career counseling through the Anne Arundel Workforce Development Corporation, and funding to expand our community school program under the Concentration of Poverty Grant. I want to ensure that everyone understands that we are being judicious transferring ESSER-funded programs into our operating budget. In this recommendation, we have opted not to request funding for $38 million in programs and staffing, leaving them funded by the ESSER grants for 1 more year over the next 12 months. However, we will need to make final decisions on providing that funding in our operating budget or discontinuing the programs. Those include more than $8.3 million for tutoring we have offered for the last 2 years to help our students regain ground lost due to disrupted instruction. $8 million for curriculum-related initiatives such as the iReady assessment, making summer programming and instruction free for students, and providing career and technical education courses online. $2.3 million for a state-mandated learning management system, and $2.1 million for contracted HVAC technicians to perform service at buildings across our system. Before I close, I want to say a few words about the settings in which we educate our students. They are, by and large, amazing, and I want to compliment loudly and clearly the facilities, operations, maintenance, and logistic teams that make our buildings shine every day. I am aware of the massive maintenance backlog in our county, and the $197 million capital budget recommendation I am presenting to you tonight both chips away at that and continues funding requests for 5 major school projects. I've already mentioned one of those, the new West County Elementary School. This plan also contains construction funding for new facilities for the 2 Old Mill Middle Schools, the Center of Applied Technology North, and a replacement for the existing Old Mill High School. It is important that we continue to upgrade the facilities that serve our students, but I must also emphasize again the equal importance of fiscal prudence. This capital budget recommendation seeks funding for the same large-scale projects that are contained in the current year's budget. We must concentrate on those. They total $132 million before asking for funding to address other major capital needs. The budget recommendation I have put before you tonight is the first step toward us becoming great. I ask you, however, to refuse to view it as pages upon pages of numbers. Every number on every page is about a student or a group of students. Those numbers aren't Republican or Democrat. They don't take one side or the other of the many polarizing issues that grip our county. They take the side of students, students whose dreams are bright and vivid. On one of my school visits earlier this year, I stood in a 3-year-old pre-K class and just watched a room of excited, eager, and enthusiastic children full of joy as they worked together and helped each other with the task at hand in the comfort of that classroom. They had no cares and there were no limits. You see, as 3-year-olds, children believe they can do anything. All too often, that belief gets eroded over time because our society has this bad habit of crushing spirits and destroying dreams. We can't do that. Our children deserve better than that. We have to respect the differences, but commit to finding the common ground. The more common ground we find, the more our students win. And when our students win, everyone in our county wins. Thank you.
Dr. Bedell, thank you very much. Congratulations on your first budget presentation here in Anne Arundel County. I know many kudos are due to many of the staff, many of whom are back here, and there are, of course, many, many more. Thank you also for the extraordinary presentation, the slideshow. It was beautifully done. I don't think any of us have to worry about having reading to occupy us now for the next few days. So we look forward to diving into it. So, Dr. Bedell.
Yeah, I wanted to wait to get back up here because I wanted to look the team in the face, and I really do want to express my sincere gratitude for each and every single one of you. We did about 20 dry runs of this, and I'm really exhausted. Feel like I'm losing my voice, but the communication team under Mr. Mosier's leadership, you all are just phenomenal. The finance team under Mr. Stansky's leadership, simply phenomenal. And all of our staff members who really went through the 3 days of the dry runs and helped to give us feedback to make this presentation what it was today. I just want to thank you all. It is a phenomenal process and one that I think should be replicated around many school districts. And you all as a board and as a community have a lot to be proud of with the type of talent that's in this school district. Thank you all.
Mr. Silkworth.
Thank you. I just wanted to, as I listened to that, and I'm addressing my comments to everyone, but of course, Dr. Bedell, Bob Mosier, the amazing team that is here for our kids. I wrote down as he was presenting just words. So I'm just going to read the words that I wrote down, and that's it. Awesome, powerful, spot on, inspirational, sensational, innovative, responsible, and prudent. That's the best way I can sum up his budget. Thank you so much, Dr. Bedell and the entire staff.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Dent.
I just wanted to echo the superintendent's comments and Vice President Silkworth's comments. I have been a staffer for many years, and I know the work that goes into making a presentation go off without a hitch. So I just want to say kudos to the person that was doing the little drop there. Touch, touch, touch. On point. On point. I mean, like the presentation was as entertaining as the comment. So kudos to you and to all of the staff. I mean, I really I say this all the time, is that if I ever had a staff that has worked as hard as, and I know that you say this all the time, thank you to them. But if I had a staff that worked as hard as the AACPS staff, I would have zero problems in my life. So thank you all.
Well, thank you all. So I guess we have other things to do tonight too, huh?
Yes.
All right. So we are now going to move to section 6, consent items, award of contracts. Dr. Vidal?
Thank you, Madam President. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education authorize the award of contract number 23-165, cleaning services to P2 Cleaning, LLC, White Glove Executive Services, and Ready Clean Services Group, Inc. This is a cooperative agreement through Baltimore County Public Schools in the amount of $300,000.
So moved. Second. Okay. Seeing no lights, Ms. Howell?
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Ms. Frank?
Aye.
Ms. Ellis?
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Ms. Schulheim?
Aye.
Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Mr. McGrath?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Moving on now to section 7, action items. Item 7.01, administrative personnel appointments. Dr. Vidal?
The superintendent recommends that the personnel listed on the attached sheet be promoted and or appointed.
Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, seeing no lights, Ms. Howell?
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Ms. Frank?
Aye.
Ms. Ellis?
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Ms. Schulheim?
Aye.
Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Mr. McGrath?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item 7.02, 2023 legislative program. Dr. Vidal?
Thank you, Madam President, we have our staff up here, and I guess I'll do the recommendation now and then allow them to present. The superintendent recommends approval of the 2023 legislative program. And for this piece, we have staff prepared.
So thank you, President Tobin, Vice President Silkworth, members of the board, Dr. Bedell. For the record, Bob Mosier, Chief Communications Officer.
And Grace Wilson, Acting Legislative and Policy Specialist.
So here with item 7.02, our 2023 legislative program that's before you for approval. We just have two really quick comments to follow up on some things that were brought up at the last meeting. The first is on page 6 in the priority focus areas. Mrs. Schulheim, you had asked a question or expressed a concern about potential confusion in the language with the 180 days and the number of hours. And so we've clarified that and broken it out into a separate paragraph there, as you'll see below the first large paragraph. So I just want to make mention of that for the board.
And Mrs. Ellis, I wanted to take a moment to address the concerns that you had raised at the last board meeting. You were concerned about the language on page 7 in support of the current Maryland College and Career Ready standards and corresponding assessments. As I mentioned at the last meeting in this year's legislative program, we've added language in support of the emphasis of the blueprint for Maryland's future on rigorous and meaningful education that readies students for success in college and careers through new curriculum standards and expanded access to career and technical education opportunities. After discussing your concerns with staff, we are comfortable with removing the language referencing Maryland's college and career ready standards and corresponding assessments, as there'd still be language in the program supporting the goal of college and career readiness for students, if that is how the board decides to move forward.
And with that, we're happy to answer questions you have.
Okay, thank you. I believe Ms. Corkadell is first.
At the appropriate time, I have several minor amendments to propose once questions are over.
Thank you. And just a reminder, we'll go first with questions and then we'll move. Ms. Ellis.
No questions, just quick comment. Thank you for clarifying that. That's very helpful. And I will have a motion. Thank you.
Okay. So seeing no additional lights, Ms. Corkadell, would you like to move forward?
Yes, thank you very much. So after our meeting on Wednesday, I did one extra read on it. And I want to thank once again, I think our priorities are in line with where we want to go and take that next step of going from good to great. So thank you very much for that. And to that effort, there was a couple pieces of the detail in the in-depth, and I wanted to address them one by one if I could. And the first was on page 13. I'll wait for the screen to pull it up. So if you recall, in August of 2020, the board passed a resolution supporting social justice by stating that Black Lives Matter. And I thought it was appropriate now, a couple years going by, to ensure that that intent, which is very bold and powerful in and of itself, is memorialized appropriately. So it is not necessarily a tech edit, but rather adding the citation of its origin so that we can memorialize where we are coming from and the what and the why, essentially. So I move that we add the citation, and a citation is parenthesized, board resolution supporting social justice by stating that Black Lives Matter, August 2020.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Okay, I see no lights. So Ms. Howell.
So I'm going to restate the motion. Just let me know if I've missed anything, Ms. Corkadell. Ms. Corkadell moved to add a citation for the board resolution supporting social justice by stating that Black Lives Matter of August 2020.
Yeah, that sounds
Mr.
That's it?
Silkworth.
Aye.
Ms. Frank?
Aye.
Ms. Ellis?
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Ms. Schalheim?
Aye.
Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Mr. McGrath?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 2. Since we have adopted our many litmuses on equity, and equity is very hard work, and it is evolving. It is not a static concept with a bunch of static definitions and static ideas. And in recognizing that, particularly in the last 18 months or so, there has been a movement to better define the all, to take all to the next level, as it were. Particularly as it relates to actions that we want to request and requests that we want to make, and as well as stating where we stand. And so for the purposes just of the legislative agenda, we have many of our companion districts who are moving to fine tune, to advance, to improve upon the hard work that has been going on for many, many years in this state. And one of those things, which as recently as in October, our associations of the school boards and others across the state have been moving to try to improve some of the language and terminology, particularly as it relates to legislative initiatives. And so to that effort, there were a couple places that I identified as, I think, possibly improving in that spirit and intent. This does not, to be clear, suggest altering our core values, our core strategic plans, our policies, our statements, our procedures, how we proceed. This is to better reflect, though, what the newer language is that is emerging, in the General Assembly and otherwise, so that when we do seek out to advocate for our students and for that hard work of equity, that we are kind of in line with it. So it is not a very substantive change. There are 2 locations that I am suggesting. In other words, we didn't just go and say all. That every time there's a word all, these were 2 very purposeful places where I felt that it could elevate the intent some. And so the first is on page 8, under the section that reads adequate and equitable funding to provide social and emotional supports, instead of to all, to each and every student. I think it gives an image that is more reflective of the approach that we want to take. And likewise, also on page 13, where it reads AACPS must take responsibility for an action to dismantle and actively repair these inequities to ensure positive educational outcomes for all. I would replace with each and every AACPS student. So in summary, the motion is to replace the word all on page 8 in the phrase adequate and equitable funding to provide emotional supports to each and every student. And likewise, page 13, AACPS must take responsibility for an action to dismantle and actively repair these inequities to ensure positive educational outcomes for each and every AACPS student.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
We have a second. Okay, seeing no lights. Ms. Howell.
Ms. Corkadell moved to replace the word all with each and every on page 8, which would read adequate and equitable funding to provide social and emotional supports to each and every student. And page 13, AACPS must take responsibility for an action to dismantle and actively repair these inequities to ensure positive educational outcomes for each and every AACPS student. Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Ms. Frank?
Aye.
Ms. Ellis?
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Ms. Schulheim?
Aye.
Ms. Stent?
Aye.
Mr. McGrath?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you.
And lastly, the third one is on page 14. The addition of the emphasis of the blueprint for Maryland's future on investing in high quality and diverse teachers and leaders was a new addition to our programmatics from last year, as was called out in the draft that we reviewed on Wednesday. Upon seeing that with excitement, when I reread the bullet adequately funded incentives and initiatives to help ensure equitable access to effective and representative teachers for all students, I sort of felt that we were overlapping enough, and that the phrase was not as inclusive as this, as the new one for the blueprint was, because it includes teachers and leaders. So after discussion, I decided to move forward with this, and so I move, therefore, to remove the bullet on page 14 that says adequately funded incentives and initiatives to help ensure equitable access to effective and representative teachers for all students.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Seeing no lights, Ms. Howell. Oh, wait, did you want to, Mr. Silkworth?
Just want to clarify. So this is asking to simply remove that bullet
Correct.
and not replace it with anything.
Correct, because of its concept is enumerated in other places as in it, and specifically in that other one.
Okay.
Okay, any other? Ms. Schulheim?
Dr. Bedell, thoughts on this particular motion? You're good?
Okay, then, so seeing no additional lights, Ms. Howell.
Ms. Corkadell moved to strike language from page 14, which reads currently as, I quote, adequately funded incentives and initiatives to help ensure equitable access to effective and representative teachers for all students. Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
Ms. Frank.
Aye.
Ms. Ellis.
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell.
Aye.
Ms. Schalheim.
Aye.
Ms. Dent.
Aye.
Mr. McGrath.
Abstain.
Dr. Tobin.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-1. 7-0-1.
Thank you.
I have nothing further, Dr. Tobin.
Thank you, Ms. Corkadell. Ms. Ellis.
Thank you. And as a follow-up to what we were just presented by Ms. Wilson, thank you again. I have the following motion. I move that the following statement on page 7 under AACPS approves is deleted from the legislative program. And that language is the current Maryland College and Career Ready standards and corresponding assessments to monitor student progress towards achievement of such standards.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Howell? And no further lights. Yes.
Ms. Ellis moved that the following statement on page 7 under AACPS approves is deleted from the legislative program. The current Maryland College and Career Ready standards and corresponding assessments to monitor student progress towards achievement of such standards. Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
Ms. Frank.
Aye.
Ms. Ellis.
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell.
Aye.
Ms. Schalheim.
Aye.
Ms. Dent.
Aye.
Mr. McGrath.
Aye.
Dr. Tobin.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Ms. Schalheim, you have the light.
When appropriate, I'd like to move for the approval of the legislative program as amended.
Okay, thank you. I see no additional lights.
Oh, second.
Okay.
Right?
All right
I
then.
thought-
So we have a motion. We have a second.
Sometimes I don't see it.
And I see no more lights. So, Ms. Howell.
Ms. Schalheim moved to approve the 2023 legislative program as amended. Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
Ms. Frank.
Nay.
Ms. Ellis.
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell.
Aye.
Ms. Schalheim.
Aye.
Ms. Dent.
Aye.
Mr. McGrath.
Aye.
Dr. Tobin.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Thank you, Mr. Mosier. So we now move on to item 7.03, Center of Applied Technology, North Schematic Design. Dr. Bedell.
All right, thank you, Madam President. We have staff coming up. The superintendent recommends approval of the Center of Applied Technology North Replacement Schematic Design. Staff is here to present or field questions as needed.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Schalheim.
Hi, good evening. You know how passionate I am about our CAT programs. So I don't know that I need to say that again, but I just might as well say it again. I'm very passionate about our programs at the CAT centers. This was a joy of a document to read, and I'm just so excited about what's to come for our county and for this project. It still pains me to see solar ready as opposed to we're just going to put them up there because we should do it and it's the right thing to do. But someday, hopefully, please save me from having to repeat that over and over again. Someday, I hope that we just will do it as a matter of course. But aside from that, it just looks like a wonderful place to learn and grow for our students. And I can't wait to see it kick off. And so thank you for bringing this to us.
Thank you. I will echo the comments that it was delightful to read through this. It is really a beautiful rendering and an exciting project to envision. And I had the pleasure of speaking with some of the architects at the Cat North Open House, and it was clear how excited everybody was. So, Mr. Silkworth.
I just want to echo that as well. It was an exciting read, but it's going to be an exciting adventure. And when it opens, it's going to be absolutely marvelous. Oh, and it's in my district. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mr. McGrath.
When I went to the STEM program in middle school, I did some work at the current Cat North location, and just it's a bit sad seeing it go, but it is great to see such a great investment in the Cat program.
Thank you. Ms. Scholheim, I see another light from you.
Yes, because although in Mr. Silkworth's district does serve students from a number of clusters and districts. So I needed to point that
And
out.
you know, I'm about all of the kids.
All of the students. We're all for the students. Yes.
And maybe this is the time to put in a plug for the fact that we're going to the fundraising dinner at Cat North tomorrow night. So, okay, so seeing no more lights, oh, yes, we had a recommendation, but we need a motion.
Oh, so moved.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Howe.
Mr. Silkworth,
Aye.
Ms. Frank,
Aye.
Ms. Ellis,
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell,
Aye.
Ms. Scholheim,
Aye.
Ms. Dent,
What district?
Aye.
Mr. McGrath,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And that brings us to Section 8, a review item, Item 8.01, the monthly financial status report. Are there any questions from board members to review any material on the status report? No. So that brings us to
Favorite motion.
Item 9.
Madam President, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Do I have a fight on my hands? No, I don't. Good night, everyone. Have a wonderful holiday. We will see you back in January.